Hello, it's Rachel from 7 and All, and today I am sharing our April homeschool update and a recap for all of you. Now, in the month of April, we are just chugging along, getting the work of homeschool done, the work and the fun of homeschool done. And in many of our curriculums, we're kind of starting to get close to the end here. But we had actually wrapped up some of what we were working on in March, and we did start a few new things in April. So I will be highlighting some of the new things that we started in April, which include Beautiful Feet books around the world study, as well as starting to learn a new language. Now first I wanted to mention a highlight of our month was the fact that my husband was away on a work trip for nearly a week. He was gone for 6 days, and I know some husbands and fathers are gone and travel quite a bit for their work, but this is actually fairly unusual for my husband. The last time he had a work trip was in 2019. So this was unusual, a new experience for my boys to have their dad go away for work. And what made this exciting was the very first night that he was away, a giant tree branch fell, ripped our electric line off of our house. And so in the middle of the night, we were totally without power and kind of wondering what we should do. The electric company showed up. I had to let them in. They had to work on our house. So my boys were awake until 3:00 a.m. that night, eagerly watching and enthralled by the workers who dutifully were fixing our electricity and using a chainsaw to cut up the tree. So that was a really exciting adventure, and I just want to ask for anyone else who has their spouse travel away on work trips sometime. When I was a kid, my dad traveled weeks and months out of the year, and we always joked that that kind of thing is exactly the kind of thing that happens when dad is gone. So I just want to wonder, do you guys have just like the most random misadventures when your spouse is traveling? Let me know. We one time locked ourselves completely out of our house when my dad was gone, and he was the only one with a spare key, and he was in a different country. Those type of adventures are always what seem to happen when dad is away. Now, for actual homeschooling updates, we did start with our Beautiful Feet around the world with picture books study, and that starts with the country of China. This is a literature-based geography study that incorporates a notebooking component, and you can really take it as far and as deep as you want to. I'm doing this primarily with my kindergartner, but I am incorporating my sisters into some of our activities for some group fun. I'll just give you a quick rundown of some of the books and some of the activities that we incorporated. One of the books in the study is Ano's China, and I have heard very mixed reviews of the Ano series. Some people love it, some people feel like they do not get it at all. These are wordless picture books. I really found these really cool. I also really appreciated that in the back of the book there are notes to help explain what you're seeing. But I think within this book you're really seeing so many little examples of Chinese culture and art and life and practice. There's a lot of detail to look at in these pictures. We enjoyed this, my sisters enjoyed it. Probably with my son being in kindergarten, he wasn't quite as engaged with this as he was with the books that have stories. And I think that's just because of his age, but this is definitely a book that I foresee us coming back to in the future when we come back to learning about China in history and social studies, geography. Other books that we studied were this one. We're Riding on a Caravan. This is a fun book for young kids, kind of an intro to the idea of the Silk Road and the trade route between Europe and Asia. After reading this book, then we went on some rabbit trails of learning about how silk is made and showing them some silk in real life, talking about the process of how that is made, the importance of silk in China and in Asia, and how that was one element of trade between the West and the East. This was a fun book. I wouldn't say that the story in this is the most compelling or amazing, but I appreciated the illustrations quite a bit because they are done through paper cutting. And paper cutting is an elaborate art form in China, very, very detailed. Paper cutting is used to create art. Traditionally, it's done with red paper. So this is taking a very colorful approach to that. But this is kind of a pretend story about the invention of chopsticks. So after reading this, we watched a video about paper cutting, and we also talked about how often we use chopsticks here, because we do live in a country where chopsticks are used very frequently, and my kids have training chopsticks and they try to believe that they already know how to use the big people chopsticks, but they aren't very good with them, to be honest. It takes some definite motor skills to get to that point. Then Ruby's Wish was an excellent, excellent book based on a true story of the author's grandmother. You can kind of see the grandmother here, but of a girl who loved writing and words and education, and talks with her family about that even, and she loves this at a time when education isn't really something for girls. That's her family, and they live in a big family compound. This was a great book, lots of learning opportunities in that one. And then we finished off the study with this book. Now this book follows two brothers who leave China during the mid-1800s to go to California and begin working on the railroad, and talks about many of their hardships that they face. Now this was a book that got every single one of us who was listening to it or reading it choked up. And close to the end, my son is like, no, stop, it's making me cry. I'm like, no, we gotta keep going, okay? Just trust me, let's finish it. Let's see where this story leads. But it was definitely an emotional read, and I think a powerful read for the kids to think about how Chinese people were treated when first coming over to North America, and in their work, in their contribution in building the railroad. So we had some really, really interesting and rich books as a part of that study. We also went on a field trip, which I feel like the China study was kind of just an excuse for this field trip, because our field trip was to go out and get dim sum for breakfast. And my family already likes to go to traditional dim sum restaurants and have a dim sum breakfast. But they were kind of like, hey, we're studying China, we should go do that now. Which it's totally okay to use homeschool as an excuse to do something you already want to do. We're studying Japan next, and I am very much going to use that as an excuse to go to my favorite expensive, authentic ramen restaurant, because it's very delicious, but it is a splurge. But hey, it's for homeschool purposes. We can totally go there. We also incorporated some Chinese snacks, some that my sister, who lives in China, had brought with her on her last visit. And the kids really looked forward to their snack time to go with the lessons. And actually, my 3-year-old was the one who liked every snack we gave him. Probably one of the snacks, well, there were a couple snacks that some of them really didn't like. One was a dried or preserved tofu snack. Most of the family did not like that, but the 3-year-old did. And we also had century egg, and that one, they were like, well, it's pretty okay, but he was the only one who really kept eating it. So I think what we've learned so far is he will eat anything. But that was a fun element to include for sure, and an easy one for us to include here in Asia, where it's very easy for us to access different Chinese snacks. We also liberally incorporated videos, and I think especially in geography and cultural studies, it can be really nice and really helpful to incorporate videos and help make whatever you're learning about come to life. Notebooking for the countries has been a big hit so far. My 5-year-old has recently discovered a great love for coloring and has really grown a lot in his coloring skills. He was never that toddler who just wanted to color forever. I know some kids are like that from a very young age, but that was not his personality. So I've been kind of surprised at how much he's been really into coloring and very intentional in his coloring recently. He really likes the cutouts that Beautiful Feet Books includes. They include maps, as well as flags and a few animals for each country, but he doesn't think there's quite enough, so we have added some more. When we've learned about something like the terracotta soldiers, the terracotta warriors, he's asked me, hey, can you find some cutouts so we can add those to our notebook? So I'll go on the computer and I'll find a coloring page of the terracotta warriors, shrink it down, print those out. So for example, we're about to start Japan, and he already was asking, we need more cutouts. We don't have enough in Beautiful Feet. So I found a samurai picture and made it small so it can fit as a cutout in our notebook. So when we learn about samurai, we can add that and add some notes to our notebook. The notebooks have been going great, which I love because notebooking just has a special place in my heart. Now, when we finished our 3 weeks on China and I announced that we were going to be starting Japan, that was met with some wails of sadness because they really liked their China study. But I've said, no, Japan is going to be just as interesting. There's so many interesting things for us to learn about Japan. I think we will end up spending also about 3 weeks on this country. I have a good amount of books to go into. We've already watched the anime movie My Neighbor Totoro, and we have lots more adventures to come. The kids are also excited about Japanese snacks because we have a local Japanese convenience store, so I've told them we can go to that and raid their shelves, pick out a few fun snacks for them. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that we are bilingual homeschoolers, so we do incorporate Spanish into our learning each week. And I wanted to share a Spanish win because one of the weeks this month we were supposed to be practicing and singing La Araña Pequeñita, the itsy bitsy spider. This is how I always do it. The itsy bitsy spider climbs up the water spout. So we're singing that in Spanish, and then throughout the week, as we're doing a coloring page of another kind of animal or so on, my son is like, hey, let's put this one into the itsy bitsy or the araña pequeñita song. So then suddenly we're doing, el conejo pequeñito, and then, oh, we can't do climbs up the water spout, it's a rabbit. So then, okay, let's do sato, sato, sato. Let's do jump, 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 hops, hops, hops. And then, okay, then the rain comes out and washes it away, and then everything gets dried out, and then the little rabbit is jumping again. So he's changing the song, and we realize that we have to change whatever the animal's doing to make sense with the animal. And then he wants to do some sea creatures because he loves sea creatures. So we're putting in, okay, la ballena pequeñita is swimming, but then the rain coming and washing it away doesn't really make sense. So what else could we do? Okay, let's change the rain to a wave, una ola. So he found through changing the song and wanting to change the animal that then he has to change the action. Oh, we have to change the storyline. And I will admit that sometimes in the end with our changes, the song didn't quite make sense, but it was so exciting to me that he's using a Spanish song that he knows, but then he's putting in other words and other verbs and actions and changing the story of the song in Spanish. To me, that was a huge win, something I was very proud and excited to see. We've also added a third language to our homeschool routine this month, and this was something I knew I eventually wanted to start, but I've been hesitant to figure out how to do it, how to start a third language, learning Mandarin Chinese without taking away from the input that I give my kids in Spanish. Because I'm one of basically 2 Spanish speakers in their lives, I don't really want to reduce the amount of Spanish exposure that I give them. So I was really torn in my mind of how exactly to introduce a third language. And then eventually I decided to go with Little Chinese Learners on the computer. We don't do a lot of screen-based schoolwork. I'm not typically one to sign up for memberships. You know me, I like books. Let's sit down and read a book. I'll do that all day long. But I'm not typically one for computer-based schoolwork, membership-based schoolwork. But for Chinese, because I was having such a hard time wrapping my mind around it, I figured that this was the solution for us for now. And I really liked all the different elements that were included in Little Chinese Learners. I felt like it would be a good fit. So that's what we've been doing this month, and I did sign up for the membership. Now, it is a yearly membership. I do tend to prefer things that you can pay for once and you have access to it for the rest of your life, but I know a lot of places just don't do that. And this, when it came down to it, from looking at it, doing the free trial, I was like, this really has all the elements that I like right now, so I'm gonna go for it. Make the gamble and go for it. So Little Chinese Learners has a 5-day lesson plan for each lesson. I'll link to their website so that you can see what it's like, but they include videos, they include songs and little short stories in Chinese. So it is screen-based, video-based. They have video lessons with a teacher who is specifically teaching words and phrases and characters, and who gives little Chinese tips, Chinese secrets, Chinese learning secrets that open up on a scroll. The boys love that part. There are also some simple games that they play within the lesson itself. And those games will be practicing whatever words and characters they are learning in that lesson. But there's also a printable element that you do on paper. So I'll just give you a little example. This is the homework for this coming week. So this is a color by number. So we're working on numbers 1 through 10 in Chinese. So it's a color by number sheet. So it's a good thing my son now likes coloring. Then here is a cut and paste activity. So these half circles have Chinese numbers on them, and then you're supposed to paste it on the smoothie cup with the number of stars that match that number. So it's cut and paste coloring. We do have the traditional writing sheets. Everyone who's studied Chinese knows these boxes very well. Learning to write characters. Here we have another cut and paste activity, matching the Chinese word with the number of fingers. So you can see this is a whole number focused lesson. I think this is lesson 4. This is designed for young kids and moves slowly and incrementally. You'll also notice, I think this is pretty neat, they include like the ancient versions of Chinese characters on these sheets. Then there's usually some kind of craft. This one is a little caterpillar that you get to cut it out and paste the numbers in order from 1 to 10 on a little scene. You're making a caterpillar scene. And then here is an audio activity where you'll be listening to an audio and choosing the right number for each fruit. There are also some speaking and recording activities where they'll challenge your child to say a phrase or say a sentence, and then you record it, put it in. You can also opt at some membership levels to have those graded. I did not opt for that membership level, but that's an option for those who are interested in it. You can opt to have like a grading option. But to me, it was just perfectly fine to have everything they offer in the normal level. One thing I am adding on, and this will surprise no one who is used to my homeschooling style, is I'm putting all the characters that they're learning on index cards and making flashcards out of them so we can play flashcard games. That's it. So, and you can see I made doubles. I've actually made doubles of the characters we're learning so that we can play memory matching games, or I'll put them on the other side of the room and I'll tell them what word I want them to go for and have them run across and grab that word, or hide them around the room, and then we'll hide and we'll talk about which numbers we found. So, which numbers or which words. They've learned a few words. They've mostly learned introducing themselves and numbers so far is how far we've gotten. It's not like fast. It's not like, let's be speaking Mandarin in 90 days. That's not my goal right now. It's just getting started, building some of these foundational ideas and building a love and excitement for Mandarin. And I do think the fact that it's on the computer and incorporates videos and games is something that's really exciting to my kids. They do not let me forget to do their Chinese lesson. All right, that is my April homeschool update. Let me know how your homeschool is going this April. Are you still going strong? Are you feeling like your school year is winding down? How's it going?